Hey, what's going on, YouTube? What's going on, fellow Conspiracy Cantina Patreons? We appreciate you being here. My name is General Master Depaul, and we have right here with me my partner, my dyad, my partner in crime on this amazing channel, xcoregamerskillz.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
So, thank you for joining us, guys. We have a amazing, controversial, let me even say, topic tonight that has a lot of buzz going on in the Star Wars community. It really shouldn't, but it does, surprisingly. So, and we actually have some amazing guests too. But the topic today is Rey Nobody to Rey Skywalker. So we know how hot that topic that can be, and how touchy that can be with some people. But we have some experts about this one, and it's cut and dry, but at the same time, we have some great points that we're going to be exploring around this, and I can't wait to introduce you guys to our guests. We have two amazing guests. You can find them on TikTok, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Before I bring them up, please do us a favor. If you have not already done so, click that big red button below, that subscribe button. Yes, that will get you subscribed to this channel, because we do these bi-weekly. Also, hit that bell, hit all, because anytime we go live or put out any content, YouTube will give you a notification saying, hey, Conspiracy Cantina just went live or put some new content out. You might want to check it out. So with that, we're going to dive right into this one. And let me bring up the guests that we have. So we have some amazing guests that they honored us with today. So we have, you may be familiar with these two if you actually have a TikTok or love Star Wars, because they do some amazing content, and they have some great speaking points and some great just like love that it brings to the community of Star Wars. So, but all not waiting for anything else, we'll go right into it. So, I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourself. We're gonna start from. There will be Nick. Go ahead, introduce yourself, sir, and let us know where you can find you from. And yeah.
What's up, everybody? There will be Nick. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter. There will be Nick. I also professionally am a writer, author, and proofreader. You can find me on Twitter. This is Strange, and that's
hey, Nick, bring the mic a little closer.
Yeah, is that better?
There we go.
Yeah, it's much better. Yes.
Like I said, I'm Nick. I go by There Will Be Nick on Twitter and on TikTok, and I'm also an author, editor, and proofreader on Fiverr under This Is Strange, and pretty much any other social media. I'm There Will Be Nick. It's pretty uniform.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for popping in and being on this one of our guests on Conspiracy Cantina. We do appreciate this, especially for this topic. So can't wait to hear your points and your speaking points on this one, because it's going to be amazing and a good time. So next we have J. Kevin Parker. Sir, please let us know where we can find you at and introduce yourself.
Hey, thank you for having me on this podcast. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. My name on most social media is J. Kevin Parker, the letter J, Kevin Parker, all smushed together. On YouTube, I'm Epic Worldview, but my TikTok has a link to all that stuff in the bio. So that's where I'm at and where you can find me. I'm most active on TikTok, even though like on my lives, they don't know what's going on because I'm doing a podcast right now. Hi, lives. Go join the podcast. That's why I'm live.
Nice.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. Three of my favorite creators. So I'm glad to be here.
Hey man, thank you for saying that, and thank you for being on here. It's an honor to have both of you guys on here. We do appreciate taking the time to even cover this topic and just being on the Conspiracy Cantina. Some of the people you guys are literally like when we decided to do this, it's like we want to have these people on here. We want to get these the positive side of the community that actually are rational, that actually has valid points, not just spewing hate. So thank you for this one. And we're going to be tackling some hard topics and just discussion and a friendly, good discussion too as well. You can actually disagree with stuff and still have a civil discussion and still be friends without insulting and calling names on and stuff. So that's what this is about. So with that, we're gonna dive right. Well, actually, let's say hi to the chat for everybody who's on here. Thank you everyone for hopping on here. Kevin came on early. Thank you, sir. xcoregamerskillz. First one, who's excited about this conversation? I think we all are.
Yes.
This is something that's needed to be said a long time ago and been had. So, I know I am too. Random Kevin, Hearth Productions. Thank you, sir. We appreciate. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys hopping on.
A quick shout out to Harith and Cart2D2. Both of them have been awesome to me on TikTok. They're constantly supporting my content. They have their own podcast called They Fly Now. It's the They Fly Now podcast. Harith, if you want to pin that, that's cool.
Yes, please do.
I will be a guest on there in the future. I just wanted to give them a shout out because they have been so supportive and so awesome to me personally, and I want to show them much love because they're awesome people.
That's nice, and they
more
are
love from the Star Wars community. And yes, They Fly Now. I caught the first episode, and I missed the last one. I have to go back and watch it. So thank you for showing up. And yes, feel free to pin that, and we'll put it up there for you. Joe, what's going on?
That's a great name.
What's that, Nick?
That's a great podcast name. They Fly Now. I love that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Aaron, thank you guys. We appreciate that. Going through some of the comments real fast. Oh, I hear Kevin.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna show up for somebody, you might as well be Kev, right?
Right? Support what you love. That's okay.
As long as they don't have a siren going, I'll be okay.
There you go.
Thank you all for coming.
So, Nick, before you jump in there, because it's going to be some good topics, Nick, just like if you can pull up as close as you can your mic, because it was cutting out a little bit.
All right.
There you go. All right, cool. So, with that said, Rey Nobody to Rey Skywalker. So, we're going to open this up. And what was your initial thoughts when you first saw Rey? Like just even with throughout her whole story and these sequels, what was your first initial thought? Open up to everybody.
I would love to hear Nick go first.
All right.
I've heard a little bit of what he thinks, but I want everyone to hear it.
First initial thoughts as far as like after The Force Awakens? Is that pretty much what you're asking?
The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, all of it.
My first initial thoughts after The Force Awakens were like I was really intrigued by the character because for the first time in the movies we had a female protagonist, and I thought that was really cool. A female lead protagonist. Like we had Ahsoka in the Clone Wars show, but she shared the spotlight with a bunch of other people, right? Mm-hmm. And Rey shares the spotlight with a bunch of others as well, but she is the central focus of the story. She's the new Jedi that we're following. I thought that was really interesting, and I like that in the beginning we didn't know anything about her. And her journey seemed to be one that was going to be of self-discovery, and that is what it ended up being throughout 3 movies. And that really resonated with me. I always liked those kind of stories, and it was interesting to see that in Star Wars from her point of view in the future. And I like the tie-in they had there where Luke's journey is also self-discovery, and so is Rey's, and that theme is still resonating throughout Star Wars 30 years after Luke's journey is over to the galaxy.
Yes. Okay. I
Yeah.
like that. Kevin?
Yeah, so I appreciate all of those comments, and this may surprise a lot of people. I liked The Force Awakens when I watched it, but I wasn't blown away by it. And my first thoughts were, it's new, it's good, the quality was amazing. The story seemed like it leaned very heavy into nostalgia for me. That was my first initial viewing. I know some people, that's their main complaint still about that movie. But by the time The Last Jedi came out and I was just blown away by that movie, I went back and watched The Force Awakens several times. And I was amazed by how tight the story really is and how much of Rey was actually shining through. It wasn't just, since I've been watching Star Wars for, 44 years or whatever, and when I saw Han and R2-D2 and all these different characters show up, it's like, that's, of course, what kind of stole the show for me at first. But as Rey began to emerge in the second and especially the third film, I was actually really both intrigued and like encouraged by the journey that she had and by her overall story. So for all the complaints about it not being a cohesive trilogy, I think people need to maybe try to watch it with an open mind again, because to me, the story fits together perfectly, as well as the other three trilogies do for themselves. So yeah, Rey grew on me. That's the short answer to my long-winded rant there.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of the Force Awakens. Like I understood why they were doing what they were doing, and when people call it a blatant rip off, I was like, well, I mean, that's kind of what Star Wars is. It's a bunch
of poetry. It rhymes, right?
And it's a bunch of stuff that George thought was cool, and just was just like, here, I repackaged this for you. You can have it. And I'm just like, so okay, but Rey was always one of my favorite parts of the new trilogy. Her character is obviously a mirror to Luke, but her lens is so much different because she's constantly been searching for her family. Whereas Luke had a family but wanted more. So that was a really cool little juxtaposition. And the things they show Rey doing in the beginning of that movie, like that whole introduction with that ruin of a Star Destroyer, I was just like, this is Star Wars. This is cool.
Yeah, you knew she was going to be big when she started doing flips and stuff and like rappelling through that thing. That just showed her agility right off the bat. We see her for minutes on the screen before she ever utters a word. And that's another thing. Like, that's not a usual introduction to a character. We just see her going about her business and taking care of stuff. And then suddenly she starts speaking after we start to see, like, this is a dirt poor person, poorer than anybody we've seen. I mean, we've seen a slave. We've seen, Luke on a farm in a little town on the same planet as his dad. And then this person is barely making it in life, like, to sustain herself. So, yeah, that was compelling to me.
I agree. I mean, and just the whole fact that, like, for me, when I first saw it, I mean, I didn't have like any initial feelings. I was like, okay, it's cool. It's a new Star Wars. That's what it's going to be. It's not. I don't see Luke Skywalker. I'm not seeing anything. And then they start with cameos, of course. Han and Chewie. I was like, I wouldn't say cameos. And then I was like, okay, this is cool. But seeing what she can do. Like, I honestly, I literally related her to Luke Skywalker just for a fact, and because I didn't have really any major feelings about Luke Skywalker when I first watched A New Hope. I was like, oh, okay, some farm dude, some kid that's on the farm, and all right, cool. I was actually more intrigued with the droids, R2D2 and 3CPO when I first saw A New Hope. So same with this one. It's like, okay, the first thing we saw was BB-8 and Poe and Kylo Ren and them. So I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." So for me, Rey wasn't. It was like I want to say overshadowed, but it was just more of like, okay, well, I know that she's the main character, but let's see what happens.
You were open-minded. That's, I think, a key to any of these things, and that's kind of how I was. I wasn't blown away in the first movie the first time I watched it, but I kept an open mind, and I saw that my kids loved it. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to just keep watching, and we'll see where it goes from here. And yeah, I was blown away more and more as each episode came out.
What a novel concept to go into something you like with an open mind. That's wild.
Right, open-minded movie viewing. Yep.
Yeah, you have to have that one. And I messed up by not doing that with The Last Jedi and the Last Jedi. I'll just leave it to The Last Jedi. I went in there with the open mind for The Rise of Skywalker. With The Last Jedi, I messed up. I was expecting things. So that's the thing. But yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really love about the sequel trilogy that the prequel trilogy totally missed is bringing back the cyberpunk element. I'm still trying to get on Star Wars English class and talk about this as a literary thing, but George helped invent an entire subgenre of science fiction with the original trilogy, because cyberpunk didn't take off really until one of my favorite authors, William Gibson, started heavily writing it, and he's got to have been influenced by Star Wars because it does all those same things, especially the original trilogy ticks those same boxes about identity and technology and what it means to be human, and cyberpunk can be sort of summed up as high tech, low life, and you don't get to see any of that in the prequels, and it's there in the universe. We see it in other places, but you don't see it on screen unless you're watching the original trilogy. And I'm so glad that piece of it comes back for the sequels. I think that's the biggest part for me of what the prequel trilogy is missing.
You're ignoring that 1 second cameo of Aura Singh in The Phantom Menace, right? Like, isn't she? 1 second.
Yeah,
we got.
Yeah, but it's more than that. Like, we get a little bit of it on Tatooine.
Yeah.
But even the Tatooine, if you look at it, where we do see it, it's not as gritty. It looks a little shinier, a little prettier, and that was something that was so awesome about what we got in the 70s, because Tatooine looked like a dump. Everything on it, like even Jabba's palace was gritty, it was grimy, it had that haze of that opium den, and that's really the core of what cyberpunk is. You have these droids that could do every job, and no one would ever have to work again. But you still have people like Luke and his family who are dirt poor moisture farmers.
Right. Yeah, there's a big difference. I grew up on a farm, and so I related to Luke. Although, I mean, we didn't farm, moisture, but seeing that, and then the Tatooine experience with Anakin, he was a slave, but he was in a city. It was much more urban. Mm-hmm. So it was like we were always in Mos Eisley from the original instead of always at the farm, and then we kind of skip over to Mos Eisley for 5 minutes.
Right.
I agree.
I know it wasn't Mos Eisley. Don't come at me in the chat, you guys. Was it Mos Espa? Is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad that you have to give a disclaimer every time.
I've learned it saves me a lot of pain, but
okay,
some are going to come at me anyway.
Hey, I get it. I mean, our first interaction, it was funny because our first interaction was on one of your TikToks I came across, and I was actually siding with you, and you had so much hate in your comments already that you was ready for the use on defense, and I was like, no, whoa. I'm with you, bro. He's like, oh, my bad.
I'm sorry for grabbing you. I thought it was hilarious. I've gotten better about that since then. I know that happens, and I hate that I ever do that. So I've tried to default to, like, I'll go search somebody up if I think they're being a punk now. And if I see that, like, 10 other creators I know have responded to them, then I know, okay, I can go hit this guy. I mean, verbally, not physically.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Only because the internet's limiting in that way. But nature, anyway,
bro. It happens. People come at you sideways, and
I'm glad you gave me a second chance.
Of course, man. No, yeah, we all deserve redemption, except from Tom Krill. He's fuck him.
Everyone except that one. That's the line's drawn there.
Throw that one in there. We'll go with some of the comments. Dope says, really don't know why people hate Rey becoming a Skywalker. Personally, you know what? I don't know. I have ideas, but it's more on of human psyche or psychology level. Just people don't like change. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, I mean, and we'll get more to that one too. Next one. First on, Rey was a relatively neutral one. Okay, cool. Always felt rather neutral, which is good in some ways because she was easy for me to follow. Hey, and I think that's why her character was like that, just for the new generation, so that it was easy for them to identify with and just follow along with it. Okay, cool. What's up? They fly now. What's going on, guys? Johnsky, what's going on? This one's a good one. Rey's introduction on Jakku is one of the best parts of the sequel, and arguably, yes, I agree with that one. It's just like I even like the whole when she was going through the whole thing, and she did the little sand snow sledding. I'm like,
yeah,
that was just like you know what? I like that. It's like so wholesome, and just I loved it. Like, it's okay, cool. And it showed that she was a badass already from the gate. Cause like I ain't going in no damn starship and like hanging and swinging around nobody like that. I'm a grown ass man. I'm like, I'm cool. Nick, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm hearing fuzz. I wonder if it's his connection.
No, I can't hear you. So
barely.
Is that better?
there we
Yeah.
go.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I do these kind of things all the time. Never have an issue. I don't know.
Huh. Okay.
Wait, can you hear me now, though?
Yeah,
Yeah, better. Yeah.
better.
So what I was saying with Rey on Jakku, I really like that whole sequence that we get of her. The first time that we get to see her where she's scavenging and then she's sledding down on the sand. It also feels really odd to see that in a J.J. Abrams movie because it was really somber and sort of artistic. And not to say anything bad about Abrams, but he's a very flashy, here's a bunch of lights kind of director. And he took a really subdued approach to that, which really offsets the entire rest of the film and the beginning of the film, which is really dark with Kylo. And I really like that tonal change he does in the beginning there. It also sets us up for how Rey is going to be different than anything we've seen before.
I hadn't really thought about that, but I guess you can't really do lens flares very well in the desert. So
No,
now I'm thinking back to the Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the sand sledding was interesting. I saw an interview where Daisy Ridley was talking about how she really couldn't even do it. Like she had to be pulled along, and it was really tricky for her to do the thing. But it looked good the way they did it on screen.
really? Wow, I did not know that one. That's that's fun fact. Thank you. All right, cool. Dope said we're getting another trilogy at some point. Honestly, yeah, I think we're getting probably like 2 more at least. The one that Ryan Johnson's supposed to be doing. We might be getting 3. The one that Ryan Johnson's supposed to be doing.
I know they've also talked about trying to get away from the trilogy format
Yeah.
so much. Like it puts
Yeah,
into a corner. But I know they talked about 3 films for Ryan Johnson, so I don't know. They may go back on.
Yeah.
I won't be
Yeah.
surprised if the only trilogy is Johnson's and other things are non-trilogy formats.
Yeah.
Right. It could be like in the MCU where there are trilogies, but then there are some that are just 1 or 2 movies. You know, it continues if it continues. There's no commitment kind of thing.
Or a TV show that connects to a movie or 2, things like that. I could see them
Right.
on there.
You know,
Right.
and the way they've been knocking out these series on Disney Plus, they might go that route more because they do like the Mandalorian doing that well. They can easily do stuff like that.
Yeah, I was.
Go ahead.
I was reading a thing where they were talking about how like the MCU has forever changed the way we're going to view movie franchises. Like it's the trilogy format is more or less dead. I mean, unless like a few have pulled it off, like John Wick, but it's more or less like, especially for Star Wars, you have this great sandbox. So it's almost like
Anakin doesn't like that. Sorry.
So it's almost like why would you just do pick a set of time and just do 3 movies when you can do like let's say you're doing the Acolyte, you can have her do a movie and then do her show, and then that show you have a character and they get a movie, and you know what I mean? Like that's sort of what the MCU has been doing, and there's no coincidence that Disney bought Marvel, built that studio from the ground up, and then was like, okay, well, we can get Lucasfilm because George is done, and like they had to have been thinking about that, especially after the way the end of the Skywalker saga sort of played out, with everyone just. It was basically like, let's try to please new fans, old fans, and Legends fans, and it didn't pan out, and so now they're kind of rethinking everything. Especially with what they're doing with the High Republic, with all the books and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if we get, some movies and shows to tie in there too.
Most definitely, man. If they don't do like a kind of live action or something with the High Republic, that's crazy. Because that series alone is really good, and it gives you so much like more meat and potatoes and just depth into the lore of the Jedi, and just like the whole the peak of it, of their reign, I guess you can call it. But yeah, so absolutely. But I know that in the canon book that it says that Rey is actually building a new Jedi Order, or her Jedi Order. I was like, is that like a teaser for something that's coming in the future? So something's happening with that one.
Is what a teaser. I'm sorry about that.
So in the the book, the Star Wars canon book, if you actually pull it up, come off topic a little bit. Actually, no, it's not really. When it comes to Rey and Rey Skywalker, I thought they actually had in here about her building the Jedi Order, or being the Jedi Order being rebuilt. Yes.
Well, I think they had initially planned to do this trilogy, and sort of like this trilogy. This is a little off topic, but they wanted to take each of the three trio, give them each a film, say goodbye, and I really think they had planned to take the new trio and move it forward, but the fans lost their damn minds, bullied four of the actors basically out of acting, and now the rest of us are like, but no, we liked it. So they're good. I would say give it a few years, like at least 5 before they do anything. Especially even I would say give it a few more years before they have Rian Johnson direct everything, because TLJ was divisive to the fan base.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's gonna need some rest.
When you were talking about bullying bullying actors out, were you talking about the prequels or the sequels? Because the stories.
Yes. Yes.
Hey,
essentially, it's why George didn't do anything. They bullied George out of his own franchise.
Yeah, people try to come back at me on that and say it didn't happen, and I'm like,
no, it happened.
One of my skills and I learned from college on, is how to piece together information. I'm an information scientist, but also like a researcher of other things. And so like I've pulled clips of interviews from George, and you can just see how beaten down he is over like 20 years of interviews. Like, oh, well, nobody's going to like it anyway, or, the fans are just going to, trash it or whatever. He lets these things slip right as he goes along. You can tell that's what's really bubbling up back there. So he got a lot of hate. I don't think any of it was deserved. I think people can say, hey, I don't like it. Just don't spend money on the damn thing. Right? On something else.
It's not that hard. No, I lived through the prequel era. There was more hate back then than there is now, and people don't want to hear that or accept that. But man, you couldn't even mention Star Wars without people wanting to fight you. It was unreal.
Yeah, Star Wars ended with 4, 5, 6. That was the only Star Wars.
I was really lucky. I got I was a teacher of young kids at the time. Like I worked in like a daycare and also a summer camp. So like I was working with like 5, 6, 7-year-old kids. So I could just talk about Star Wars to the ones that liked it, because they like the prequels. I like the prequels. They like, the OT. I like the OT. But like to any of like the Star Wars fan friends that I had, like you couldn't mention the prequels until I was in like college. And that was a few years after. Like,
dude, I was in grad school with people that I considered friends, and they started giving me hate for liking those movies. They're like, you can't really like those movies. Them and the Matrix sequels, right? So we're about to get that whole thing stirred up again with the Matrix 4 if it actually comes out in December, like it's planned to. By the way,
I can't wait for that. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but I remember like everyone loved the first one, and then people hated on the second and third one, just like they do the sequels or the prequels. And like you'd realize that was one cohesive vision by the Wachowskis, right? Like there is a story there. You just don't want to see it. That's my same thing with Star Wars.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
and I love the people who say in any franchise like this was out of character for that character. You're talking to the guy who wrote the character, like. Like, there's a little more validity to that statement when it's made at people who didn't originally create the character, like when they're talking about Luke. But it's still, I don't believe it. But it's just like, how is this out of character for the character when the person who wrote the character is saying this is what happened?
Yeah, I think like Batman and Robin is a good example of that compared to the movies that came before it. Like they started jumping the shark in the movies, before that. But that movie to me, like, okay, that guy didn't understand the way that it was done with, Tim Burton, and just that was frustrating, right? So yeah, he didn't create the character, but these characters are created by the people making these movies, right?
Yeah. I mean, someone was like, "Oh, there was a lot of the criticisms. There was no overarching vision, blah blah blah. There was no one at the top." And I'm like, how can you say there was no one at the top for this trilogy when the story team is people who have been at Lucasfilm for decades? Right. Like, these people are still there. Everything that happens in Star Wars still runs through the story team, whether it's a movie or not. So that's such a disingenuous thing to say. It's just a way for you to invalidate these movies and or the love that people have for them.
Well, because they don't really know how the thing works, right?
Like, or they don't care.
Not people who've had any kind of job a lot of times. I mean, I'm not hating on people that are young. I've got young people that live in my house that are my kids, but they don't have my life experience yet, right? So like they don't know how the movie business works. They're starting to get it because we talk about it all the time. But like a lot of these people argue that stuff, they don't have any idea what the Lucasfilm Story Group does, right? That's a governance body, like a story governance group that makes sure that the whole thing matches up. I think it's amazing. Marvel clearly has the same thing, but they don't like advertise the name, I guess. I don't know what it's called. MCU Story Group, maybe. But the X-Men didn't have that, right? The previous iterations of the DC universes or whatever didn't have that. No. You could see it. It's just a mess. Terminator franchise. I mean, look at that. Thing's been all over the place.
Oh, I love the Terminator franchise.
Oh, I love them too. I love all the movies.
I like Genesis
or the Transformers, right? Like there wasn't a group that guided the story all the way along.
Correct.
No matter what you do with Lucasfilm right now, that story group is connected to the shows, to the animated, the live action, the movies, everything, and it shows if you actually pay attention.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're right on that one. I mean, you can tell when people don't have like that type of structure in place for their franchise because, I mean, unfortunately, Sony still owns Spider-Man, but look at all the Spider-Mans. They weren't all cohesive, and it's like, oh, let's just make this, just give them what they want and get some money. But I digress.
I'm another one who liked the Amazing Spider-Man films. Like, I enjoyed that one.
I mean,
I'm also one of those
I had
people.
criticisms of them, but I liked it okay. I thought Spider-Man 3 was a good movie, other than I even kind of understood the Saturday Night Fever thing because he wasn't himself. That was the whole point, right?
Yeah.
My whole problem with Spider-Man 3 was they were trying to do like 3 movies at once. And it was just like, no, just do the Venom thing. Just do the Venom thing.
We're here for Star Wars, but I got to say something about the new Spider-Man that's coming out. Like when they started talking about like this guy from this other Spider-Man. See, I'm getting it mixed up now. And this other villain from this other Spider-Man movie franchise. And I thought they are doing like the Spider-Man 3 curse, like big time. Like it's like 3 to the power of 3. Like they're going to just completely cram it in, even though I trust the MCU, but then multiverse, I'm like, okay, now you got me. Now it all makes sense. Proceed, Kevin Feige. I still trust you.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, oh, what are you guys doing? I was like, wait, hold on. Marvel's taking this one on? Like the MCU, Kevin Feige? Like,
I thought the Spider-Man curse wasn't broken.
I'll sit back and shut up real fast.
Well, one thing, the Star Wars story group, right? It seems that a lot of people, far too many people, seem to think that Kathleen Kennedy was like, all right, let's make a new trilogy. JJ, do whatever you want. Ryan, do whatever you want. And then JJ, come back and do whatever you want. That's not how the movie industry works.
Right. Well, all that plus you got to inject all these politics into it and my agenda, blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't care about story. We only care about pushing this. That's not what happened, you guys.
Not even close. I worked in the
diversity is natural.
That's not how it goes.
Nope.
Yeah.
I do want to. What is this one? Darth Choco said, "What do you think would happen if the original characters were not in the sequels?"
Far less hate, probably
Yeah.
far less money made, and far less people that actually watch.
Ooh.
See, that's the thing. Would there be less hate or more? Like, because part of the reason
It would be hate. They're every
it's just one of those things.
Empire Strikes Back. There's been hate like this. It got worse with the Return of the Jedi. Every time a new thing comes out, it's cool to hate the new stuff. I'm a true fan because I like the old stuff.
Well, I think the only reason why they didn't hate the prequels as much and allowed it, and like, okay, well, that's fine. They hated it, but at the same time, because George says this is about how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. So chill.
I knew a lot of people that didn't matter. They thought that George Lucas lost his mind and that he didn't understand his own story. And that's where I'm like, are you what? Like, he's going back to his notes from when he made the first movie, and he's trying to realize this vision. He has better technology, he has more money. Maybe it's not perfect, but no, they thought that George Lucas ruined the whole thing. George Lucas raped my childhood. You know, that stupid song.
Yeah.
From,
I heard that one.
I was watching the Mandalorian Gallery, the Connections episode, and one of the things that I think it was John, it was either John or Dave, I can't remember now. He said he's like, listen, we're not George Lucas. We can't just say this thing is cool and have it be cool. We have to really think about what we're putting on the screen, because it's not just cool because we say so. We have to think about how the fans are going to react. So if you don't think that level of care is going into everything in Star Wars, like I heard somebody say is like, oh, this guy was arguing with me and then deleted all his comments and ran away. He's like, you have the nerve to call yourself a fan. These people don't like Star Wars. I'm like, no, you don't understand. The people who made the sequel trilogy are fans of Star Wars. Almost everyone in those movies are there because they love Star Wars. The woman who played Captain Phasma, I can't remember her name.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah, she was a fan of Star Wars. Daniel Craig, who just was like, I want to be in it. I don't care if they don't see my face. Simon Pegg, Alan Tudyk. Like, Star Wars is bigger than all of us. You have to sit back, suspend your expectations, and just watch the movie.
Yeah.
It's okay to have criticisms. It's okay not to like it. But to say they're not real Star Wars, to say you're not a fan, if you like, you're not. I love the quote, and I can't remember whose it is, but you're not a bigger fan for liking less Star Wars.
Yeah, that's I think Sleepy Savior, is that his name?
I love Sleepy. I gotta have him on here one time.
I love that quote, and I use it a lot, and I try to credit him every time I can. But like, yeah, you're not a bigger fan for liking less of it. That's just not how that works.
Right?
Yeah. One of the things I love is going back, and I've done this since the original trilogy. I will listen to all of like the director's commentary. So I've listened to countless hours of George Lucas talking, and also some of the other people that helped make the original trilogy, the prequels, and then the sequels. Although I wish, The Rise of Skywalker doesn't have any, deleted scenes or commentary, and I really wish it did. I hope someday they'll release something. But I've learned so much about storytelling, for one, listening to all these folks, but also just their love for the material, their love for the story. Like, I don't think anybody could listen to Rian Johnson do the director's cut of The Last Jedi and not believe that he loves Star Wars by the end of that.
Yeah.
And that he did everything in his power to try to bring this thing to life. And he did it before the movie came out, so he wasn't like depressed or whatever. He's like, nobody's seen it yet, so maybe it'll be terrible.
Well, and the thing about Ryan, and someone quoted him as saying this, I haven't looked it up, is Ryan was once quoted, you guys probably know more, as saying he hasn't done his job if half the people who see his movie don't like it. But so I think Ryan's used to it, because I haven't seen Looper, but like that was like half the people who saw that hated it. Like, I have a friend who was like, you got to go see this, and I was like, I don't. But like half the people who I talked to saw it, they loved it, and the other half of the people who saw it didn't. So I think he's really used to that kind of thing.
Yeah, as a public speaker, I've often, and you probably can see this in my TikToks, if everybody's happy with what I'm doing, I don't think I'm doing my job. I'm like Ryan. Maybe that's why I love Rian Johnson so much.
Yes.
Because I have some of that same. It's not that I'm trying to piss everybody off. I'm not trying to piss everybody off, but there are some people that I feel like need to be unsettled. And then at the end of the day, once they hear the story, like if they hear, oh, the greatest teacher failure is, if they ever actually get that lesson, they're going to be better people. That's the way I look at it. And so, yeah, he trolled people. He trolled like the Legends fanatics. I'm not saying anything's wrong with Legends, folks. If you love Legends, that's very cool. But like, I'm sorry about the yellow on my hand. I just realized I've been painting my kid's bike, so I don't have jaundice or anything.
Okay.
I just realized, sorry. Random thought. ADHD is kicking in. But yeah, I think that you've got to unsettle people some in order to give a compelling story. You know what I mean? Like, if it's just to entertain people and make $10 a head, I guess that's fine. But I want stories that actually, that's why my YouTube channel is called Epic Worldview. It's not about like, hey, entertain me for 5 minutes, dance clown, that kind of.
Yeah. I just, when I talk about stuff, it's always stuff I'm interested in. It's stuff I love. So, like I made my Empire Strikes Back video, and I said this film is overrated, and half the people who watched it actually listened to what I had to say. Actually, was like, "Oh, okay, you make some good points," and then the other half was like, "No, it's the best film ever. There's nothing wrong with it. This, that, and the other thing." And I'm like, "No, that's not what I said." And as a fan, like my favorite is Return of the Jedi. I think everybody's fully aware, and I will mention it every time because it's. We'll do it. I'm going to do an episode, I think, on They Fly Now, when I can get on, about why, in my personal opinion, that's the best Star Wars movie. Because everything that's done in that movie, they try to do everywhere else in Star Wars, but it hits it better. But we should get back to the topic at hand.
I was just thinking that I'm really good at getting people.
It's okay. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's. I told you, I said that we don't really have an agenda, but we go everywhere. I mean, and that's the great thing about Star Wars. That's what it does. It has something for everybody, just like this podcast. But we'll talk about one thing, and then next thing you know, we talk about Spider-Man. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You like how you
Ray Skywalker, though. Let's talk about Ray Skywalker.
Let's talk about Ray Skywalker.
Yes.
Next point about the Ray Skywalker. Do you feel that Ray gets more hate than any other character in Star Wars? All through Star Wars, not just the sequels, but in Star Wars. If yes, why? If no, who is the other character that does?
Nick, I've been talking a lot again. I'll let you go.
All right. I think currently in Star Wars, yes, it's not even close. It's not comparable. Rey gets more hate than anybody else. In the history of Star Wars, no. I think Anakin gets the most hate from the prequel trilogy. People literally wanted to kill the kid actor that played him.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Jake Lloyd, poor guy.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. Like he went down a spiral because of all the hate he got as a kid. I can imagine that kind of impact as a kid. Somebody come at my kid like that. Let them come at my kid like that. God.
But nowadays,
I feel like George Lucas should have done more to like try to help that kid personally. I'm not trying to run his personal life or whatever, but I think there's some things he could have done. Maybe he just felt like it wasn't his place, but he set that up, and then the fans did the thing, and I don't know. There's a lot of things I'd do different than if I was George Lucas.
There should have been a lot of people protecting that kid. He was a literal child.
Right, exactly. And even Mark Hamill's made the point in some interviews, Jake Lloyd did everything that he was told to do by George Lucas, and he did it well. And then everyone wanted to hate him. Like, he's a kid. He's an actor. Like, Ahmed Best didn't deserve the hate. Hayden Christensen didn't deserve the hate. Natalie Portman said that Star Wars nearly ruined her career. She's the one of those four that actually came out of it and has had a really good career. But she thought she was done. Nobody wanted to hire her in Hollywood because of Star Wars and because of the way the fans reacted to her.
On the plate of retiring from acting because of the backlash of those movies and her character that she got personally when she was just taking a job to do something she was interested in.
Yeah. I think the most hate, like Rey currently, gets the most hate. And it's tempering off. But yeah, no character in Star Wars, I think, got more hate than Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
And Star Wars, I actually hate. It's the only character I don't like.
Me too.
I love Jar Jar.
Me too. That's the only character I say I can't stand is Jar Jar Binks.
Misa love Jar Jar.
So, like, you know,
I'm sorry, was that insensitive? I like Jar Jar. Okay, I saw him as comic relief, like C-3PO. Like C-3PO annoyed the heck out of me as a kid, but then I realized, oh, he's just being funny. Like that's why he's thrown in there. Yeah, maybe I would have done Jar Jar a little different, but yeah, I knew it got bad for Rey when people are like, no, Jar Jar is way better than Rey. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Wow,
like,
I haven't heard that one.
Oh, everybody, not everybody, but you know, like a third of the people in my comments are saying stuff like that. And like, she's the worst character in the history of forever. Like, a little hyperbolic, don't you think?
Wow,
The history of forever. So,
you know what? I'm
in
using
2008, though, it was Ahsoka Tano. A lot of people don't realize this. If you're younger than 12 or maybe even 20, maybe because you weren't probably paying attention back then, Ahsoka Tano, like you can go back and look at some of the forums and posts from when the internet and social media was really starting to blow up. Oh, the hate for Ahsoka, it sounds word for word what the hate is for Rey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first season of Clone Wars, and no one liked her.
Yeah. I mean, that movie too. Like that's one of the reasons why the movie got like 23% or 18 or whatever on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience hated it. I actually liked it. I took my kids to it. I thought, this kid, I don't know about this Ahsoka Tano, but I didn't hate on her. I thought she's pretty cool. She's grown to be one of my top 5 characters.
Yes,
but people hated her at first, and then she's gotten any Star Wars character. If you look at all the Clone Wars and Rebels, and now she's going to have her own show, like she's like Worf from Star Trek. Like I don't feel like there's any character that's got more screen time than she has. Maybe I haven't added it all up, but now you know Rey's had 3 movies. Give it some time, folks. We need another series or something to explore her character even more. 3 movies isn't enough.
Or a series of books. We need something to go deeper.
And I agree. I mean, and I'm glad you mentioned the Ahsoka thing, because me myself, I didn't hate on her. I thought she was annoying when she first came out. I was like,
yeah, me too.
Annoying. I did a TikTok. Who was it? Star Wars lawyer. He said your favorite part out of your most hated movie or your least favorite Star Wars, and that my least favorite Star Wars movie was the Clone Wars. I was like, I went to the theater to watch it. Me and my friend asked for his money back. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's Star Wars. I'm gonna support Star Wars. But I was like, I man, and Ahsoka was so just like Anakin gave her snips for a reason. It was like she was just so down, just snippy. I'm like, you are annoying. Oh, using my household, you get your butt whooped.
Yeah, she was being pretty sassy, but at the same time, people didn't like Anakin so much that suddenly I saw Anakin. I'm like, actually, that's better. But then Ahsoka was worse, and then I was like, I don't know where this is going. Like, is he now the new Anakin? Is that how this works? I guess it is. How could he be a master if he wasn't granted the rank? Anyway, I know the answer now, but in 2008, they confused the hell of a lot of us.
Yeah, I didn't. I had the luxury of not watching the Clone Wars until it was on Netflix a few years later. So, like, I didn't get into any of that. Like, it was. I wasn't even aware that the movie was in theaters. At that point in my life, and then I've tried to watch it on Cartoon Network a few times, and it aired at like a weird time, and I was in my like mid-20s, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go do mid-20s guy things. And then it came on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, it's Star Wars, let's watch it. I'm like, oh yeah, because I love Star Wars, like all of it.
That was me with Rebels and Resistance. Once the pandemic hit and Disney Plus came out, and boy, Disney Plus couldn't have come out at a better time for itself for a lot of reasons. But
oh yeah,
it's a conspiracy now that I think of it. No, I'm kidding.
Man, it was like, we will make this work.
But I watched all those shows, and I was so glad that I did. I've watched Rebels twice now.
This is awesome.
So
yeah, Rebels is probably second to Mando for me.
Yeah, same.
I'm not going to speak on that, but okay. So the next one is, did everybody go about the Rey? I think we're all
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think the Rey hate is loud because of the social media, and it's cool for people who don't think for themselves to parrot whatever's the loudest.
You can always
they're amplifying it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that your head is empty if you don't like Rey, but if you scream about it and say things that aren't even true, it might not be as full as you think it is.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
When my one TikTok video that actually blew up and got more than like 1,500 views. I did the Rey is not a Mary Sue. I ranted for a minute, and one of the people who I've been following back and forth actually commented. She's like, I don't like Rey. I simply don't understand. She's like, I don't like Rey personally, but I simply can't understand the hate she gets. Like, that's one of those things. Like, no one's saying you have to like the character. What we're saying is stop ascribing all this different stuff to Rey and demanding things of her that you wouldn't demand of another character. It's ridiculous.
Well, see, here's the thing about that, and I'm not defending them whatsoever. I agree with you. People try to twist their hate and say, like, I want to give them the time of the day. They try to twist it and say, oh, well, you can't do this one. And this is actually going to segue into the next point. Speaking point is that you can't compare. You can't say that Rey and Luke is the same people or the same the same kind of journey or something like that, because Rey was all her stuff happened in one movie. I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, Luke
didn't blow up a Death Star.
Yeah, Luke blew up the Death Star. Okay, well, that's just one Force thing like that. But Rey was able. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's not how the Force works. So fucking.
That's a great use of that quote. To me, it's the people who are like, say in one breath, "Oh, the sequels are just a copy of the originals," and then they'll say the originals were great and the sequels suck. I'm like, which one is it? Like, if it's an exact copy, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
I love when they say it's a copy and then say Rey's and Mary Sue and then deny that Luke is. If it's a copy and they're modeled after each other, aren't they both? Or then neither are. It can't be one or the other.
Now, with that said, does Anakin, Luke, and Rey's journey mimic each other? If yes, how so? You kind of touched on it, but we want a little more deeper in this one.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some echoes and illusions with an A, not I. I have to get that pronunciation right. Echoes and illusions between their three journeys. I mean, they're all desert kids. Even Luke addresses that in The Rise of Skywalker. He says, we were destined to meet because, two kids from desert planets. And, he kind of goes through that whole thing, like just addressing what a lot of the fans had said. But in a lot of ways, Anakin and Luke copied each other way more than Rey copies either of them. And I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that George Lucas literally said on multiple occasions, it's like poetry. It rhymes. It was supposed to. It's like old ancient Hebrew poetry, the way the structure is. And particularly episodes 1 through 6, where 1 through 3 go in a certain direction, and then 4, 5, and 6 take it in a tangent to mirror the originals. The sequels don't exactly mirror those, even though Lucas said, oh, well, we've already been to Desert Planet. Yeah, Lucas, you gave us several, but I think that there are some good things that it echoes because, the story had to be compelling. It's not like I wouldn't have felt a protagonist that grew up in a rich home, had no problems, and then just suddenly decided to go and save the galaxy one day. Like, I wouldn't find that compelling. I guess that's why it's good that we didn't see Leia as like the main protagonist of the first film, because she did have kind of a posh life. And then we saw that she didn't, like, suddenly in that movie, right? So then her character became super compelling to me because she had no home even. But yeah, so I don't think it's a copy at all, but it has to echo some, or I feel like it's not even the same universe.
Yeah, I think they're all three genres are very similar, and as you said, they kind of have to be. It's poetry, it rhymes. And I think the core of all three journeys, all of their journeys and their stories are about self-discovery. Granted, Anakin's isn't the self-discovery we want to see him have, but it's still a self-discovery of who you are inside. So they all three echo that. And Luke goes on the hero's journey, like textbook hero's journey. Rey goes on the textbook heroine's journey. So that's another thing that really mirrors each other in their stories.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I'm glad you're here, and I wish Fern was in the chat. She's busy tonight because she did like a whole series on how Rey's story is sort of a mix of the heroine's journey and the hero's journey, and where the parts line up and where they don't. I love Fern and Julia because they're like I love the academia they get into. Not saying you don't, Nick, but they do it all the time. Like they break it down.
I've seen their video or their series on it. It was really good.
Yeah. And so their stories are supposed to mimic each other simply because the entire Skywalker saga is about the hero's journey. Like Lucas basically took a whole bunch of stuff, shoved it in a box, and then took Joseph Campbell, and that's the wrapping paper.
Yep.
Like that's what he did. So
more so than most people realize. Like if you understand where like the opening crawl came from, where the dogfights came from, like he just cut and paste from all his favorite stuff as a kid. And I'm not hating on that. I think it's awesome because that's how I learned how to do like web design, for instance. I would cut and paste stuff I saw that I liked. He did the same thing with storytelling, and it revolutionized things, right? So you're exactly right. Joseph Campbell was the wrapping.
And if I like to look at different religions. I like to know everything. It's part of my ASD. So I was really interested in the Temple of the Jedi Order. It's an actual real religion. And so I was on their website, and one of their things that if you want to become a member of that church, it's literally like 6 hours of interviews with Joseph Campbell because you have to understand where the universe is and why it is the way it is. And it's literally it's like 6 hours. It's 6 hours of that, but not only that, it's at Skywalker Ranch. And those videos are free to anybody who wants to go to the site and watch them. By the way, they suggest you download them, but yeah. So it's really cool to see George Campbell himself do it. And I know that there's people who have problems with Campbell because of his book, and I'm not academically educated enough to have dived into that. But yeah, you can't separate those three characters because they're the main characters, and their stories are supposed to do that. Like that's Star Wars,
right? You know, I think another parallel is how Rey became a Jedi is very much like how Luke became a Jedi, and yet people still gripe about it. They're like, "Oh, it wasn't justified." I'm like, they literally copied Luke's journey for these parts so that you wouldn't gripe, and you're still griping.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, there's so much of that, right? Like she got the Force when she didn't have it before. Well, no, she had it since she was little, like they all do. If you've seen Rebels and you see how Ezra, jumps on the ship, like they're already using the Force without even understanding that they did. Her flipping through the Star Destroyer, like clearly that's what kept her alive. Oh, well, fighting with the staff is different than a different stick. No, it's not. Like Luke didn't know how to fight at all. You bet I am not such a bad pilot myself. And that was enough for Luke, right? Like, oh, yeah, great pilot. They had to do that. If they had veered from that too much, like more people would have been on the hate train, I think.
Disney had the impossible task of trying to please too many people. It wasn't going to work. I fully stand behind that.
Pleased a lot of the original fans, like in a lot of ways, and everybody knows I love all the Star Wars films, but a lot of the sequel driving factors was an apology for the prequels, like to win back the original Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe you don't understand that because of your age or whatever, and that's fine. Again, I love those films. They're lower on my list, but up, as far as all sci-fi, all Star Wars is in the upper echelon, the way I look at it. So, but it's true. Like they leaned into the original for nostalgia so that people like me would come back. I didn't leave, but a lot of people wanted. And I think they did a great job of that. Like they recaptured the mystery of the Force. It wasn't down to science and midi-chlorians. It was, it's this mystical thing. That was important to the people of the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest gripes about the prequel trilogy. That one little line is just like we didn't need it. And people clamoring for the Lucas cut or whatever, it's like it was more of that. It was more of this thing you say you hate.
I don't think they fully read what the Lucas cut would be when they say they want it.
They don't know. They don't know. They don't
No,
really.
they just know he had treatments, and this isn't George Lucas, so I'm going to hate it because it's
Do
new
they
Star
understand
Wars.
a treatment is an outline? Like it's like little character bios and like a few pages of an outline. That's what a story treatment is. It's not a script.
Exactly.
He didn't write scripts.
They
George
don't
didn't do
understand
that. George. That's why they brought him on as a consultant in the first place. It's like, hey,
Right.
Yep.
we want to honor your legacy, honor the story, stay on track. And that's all he did. He's like, so this is what I do when I create Star Wars. So I'm going to do the same thing for you. You can go with it if you want to. Pay me. That's fine. But
Right. Ray was his idea. He called her
Kira, I believe.
Kira, there you go. Hermit Luke on a distant planet at an abandoned Jedi temple. All that was Lucas.
Mhm.
People don't understand that. Rian Johnson got the closest to Lucas' vision of all the trilogy people.
One thing that nobody understands is there's a reason Luke is named Luke, and there's a reason he's a hermit.
Luke S.
Yeah, he is he's always been the stand-in for George, and him being a hermit is what they did to him.
Yeah.
Like that's what people don't get it. People still to this day don't understand.
Self-insert fanfic. What?
Yeah, and Luke is a hermit because you bullied him away from Star Wars. Like and then he tried to give you the Clone Wars, and at first you almost ran that off. Cartoon Network canceled it after what? How many seasons?
5, and then the 6th one was on Netflix, I believe.
Yeah.
And then 7
Okay, so I mean,
everyone blames Disney, but all the rights were tied up in those 2 other companies. Like people don't understand how business works.
No, they don't want to. They don't want to understand it. They just want
bad. Catching candy bad.
I have my own problems with Disney owning frickin' everything now.
Yeah.
Like I just have my problems with large multinational conglomerates taking over spaces. But you can't argue that what they're doing isn't awesome.
Well,
you can have that opinion, but then don't watch it and leave me alone.
As long as they don't rebrand as Umbrella Corp, I think I'll be okay. For those of you that get that reference.
That's when we all got to start worrying.
Man, right?
Or Skynet, or any semblance of those 2 things.
Yeah, they do that. I'm like, we gotta take them down. Plain simple.
But by that time, it's already too late.
I'll let y'all know where my secret bunker is, but not them.
Let me go through some of these comments real fast. Then we'll get back on the points. But there's some good interaction in the comments. Thank you guys. We do appreciate this. The Last Jedi is a good film. So you're saying that the Star Wars movie is a bad film? That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Elements.
The people who say that, they try to sound so clever. Oh, it's a good movie, but it's a bad Star Wars movie. Like,
and see,
give me a break.
We're going to touch on that part more too, because
I'm not saying that's not possible, but the people that I talk to that say that, when I ask them questions that would qualify that they even know what that sentence meant, generally doesn't go well for them.
I have that sentiment about a particular film, but that's not the topic here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like I said, it's possible. But it's like Mary Sue. Most of the people use that term don't even have a clue what it means.
No,
they think they do because they heard a definition from a YouTuber that hates everything.
That line is just a parroted line that they say. A lot of people don't even understand what they're saying when they say it.
They really don't. They don't. They say things that they hear that, oh, that makes sense. That's okay. Let me go ahead and reiterate that to the same way. And then somebody shuts them off like, well, it's just stupid. I was like, no, don't.
Well, thanks for clarifying.
And they still don't understand when our community, and I use that in general, our community, because I personally see myself just as part of a larger community that Element and Darth Jocko started. When our community says we don't like something, we're not stating it as a fact. We use facts to back up what we're saying, but I'm not stating any of my opinions as facts. I'm just saying this is my opinion, and this is why. And if you want to respectfully disagree and have a discussion, I am 100% okay with that. It's just that there's that, and I find it's getting less and less as I post, but then again, I look like this. So my experience obviously is different, but I find that it's less and less because these people they don't want to have a discussion, and when they find that that's all I'm trying to do, they either delete their comment or they block me. And I don't even have to do it anymore. And it's getting easier for me to just say whatever I want to say now. And I also don't have the fear of trolls I had when I first started TikTok, because I just realized that I don't care.
Well, like at some point, they may start mass reporting you and getting your videos taken down, and some of us have had to deal with that. Recently, I got one restored finally. When I'm very careful in what I say in these videos now, and people don't realize I don't just go on. Nobody on this app is going to get me mad. Like, I'm a grown ass man. I've got kids. I got things that this is for fun for me, and so even when I act like all perturbed, this is just me toying with them at that point.
Yeah,
you definitely got me earlier when you stitched my video, though.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm glad I did that. Are you serious?
I was like, wait, you agreed with me in my.
Yeah, no. See, that was fun, and I knew you would get it, and you'd have fun. But I still have people in my comments like, "Oh, like I did the video on, what a true fan is." I said it's short for truly the worst fans, and I still had 2 guys that were like, "Oh, but you're really like that, you're better at wording it than everybody else." I said, "Well, thanks for admitting that I'm smarter than you, but that's not really where I'm going with this. I don't get on here and lie and say." You should be, good, but I'm not going to be good. Like, who does that? So I end up blocking these people after I, make an example.
Yeah.
What's the? Hold on. So there's a lot of comments talking about.
You know what? That's a great point that you just put up here on the screen. So I've made this exact point, like his piloting experience. And I threw up a clip of him with the model that they used of the T-16. Like, there's Luke's piloting experience. I can do one right now. Yeah, I know it's not T-16, but and that's Luke's piloting experience. Yep, he's a pilot.
Wow,
so funny. That was literally the model that they were going to use to make that ship, but didn't.
This is
well, that Luke can just have a model ship like, oh, he's a pilot, but Rey puts on a pilot's helmet, and they're like, nope, she can't fly.
Yep. She told 3 men in a row, yes, I am a pilot. Like, she had to defend herself to men in the movie.
Yeah.
To Finn, FN2187, and also to Han and Chewie. Like, even Chewie was yelling about it. She's like, no, really, I am a pilot.
Yeah, that's funny because they did that probably because hey, we already know people are going to say that she ain't a pilot. Well, let's have the argument in the movie, right? And knock it out.
They did so much of that. If they had just said, "Oh yeah, you're an awesome pilot," then maybe Mary Sue starts to make more sense, right? Like she had to work harder than any other character to get anything. It seems like like she was the weakest. She was the worst pilot starting out. We didn't ever see Anakin or Luke crashing their stuff all over the desert in Tatooine, right?
No.
Luke, Anakin flew and built a pod racer at 9 as a slave out of spare parts. And
he's a scavenger. See, he was a mechanic. She's a scavenger. There's a big difference, don't you know?
He's a
right.
He's literally a scavenger. Like, I've worked in machine shops and things like that. You go out and get the parts, you put it together. That's exactly what she did. People want to get hung up on these terms, like they ever put anything but Legos together. Come on,
then Ford, because Ford, he said, I want to build cars. Let me go get this kind of car right here, a Model T. I'm going to take it apart, see how it works, and put it back together.
Yep,
that's how we have Ford.
And then he blows up a control ship at 9 with no help. But
it's okay, it's acceptable.
Didn't blink an eye, did we? I was like, oh, okay, not possible.
Except that's the Force guiding him to do that. They don't want to accept that that's the reason, and the Force also guides Luke and Rey when they do things, because then it justifies what Rey's doing, so they can't accept it.
Right.
Mountain wing.
Denying how things work in that universe does not make sense to me.
All right. We're at the end of the comments. True fan, cool you in the summer.
Yeah. I got a few of those comments, and I welcome them.
Rey is a reliable, because that's what it's like being a woman in tech. That's sad, and it's true.
It is. I work as a mechanic at my job, and we have two 2 females in my department, and that's it. And they're constantly being second guessed when they do stuff. And it's like when one of them I trained myself, and she fixed something, and later it broke because of another problem. And they were like, "Oh, well, she didn't do it right." I'm like, "No, she does it the way we taught her. I taught her myself how to do it. So you're just mad because she's a woman in the field. Like you wouldn't be saying that to me."
I speak at tech conferences a lot, and I've been, would be talking to a fellow keynote speaker who happens to be a woman, and people will go up and ask, "Oh, where's your booth?" Like she's just there for marketing, or like you don't actually know what you're talking about. Let me go find a man to talk to. And it frustrates me. And so for years, I've tried my best to be an advocate, and I'll steer them back to that person, not to like torture the woman, but to be like, "Hey, here's the expert. If you want to know, she's the expert, literally the expert on this. She wrote the book, by the way, that you're looking at. That's her name down there." Yeah, uses her first initial, so people don't assume, whatever. But yeah, women in all kinds of any kind of technical field, any kind of, whether it's mechanics or computers or any field, really. Like people don't realize it's not been that long since women weren't allowed to work.
True.
So, but feminism is bad. Shut up. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. It's really as if they knew that this would be a complaint. They covered. Yeah, they did. Don't get me started, Kev.
I like getting Amber started. It's fun.
Hey, I love Amber. All right, cool. Coming down here.
For that Chosen One comment, so a lot of people get mad because Rey's the new Chosen One. I'm like, Disney has never, ever called her the Chosen One. They've maintained that Anakin is the one and only Chosen One.
Yeah.
Chosen One, not Chosen Two, Chosen One.
Chosen One.
No, they ruined the sacrifice.
No, they didn't. No, like you ruined the sacrifice. They didn't.
I've had arguments lately about the prophecy, right? Like, to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. And I said, nope, that's not the prophecy. And I would quote them the actual literal prophecy that we have now in canon.
And they tell you you're wrong.
To bring balance to the Force, not to destroy the Sith. That was the Jedi interpretation. I mean, that happens in religions all the time, since you were talking about religion earlier. And that's something I'm a student of as well. And they make this oral law, this interpretation. But these fans were debating me, saying, no, the prophecy is about destroying the Sith. Well, he did that, but that wasn't even what he did. He was saving Luke, by the way. He just happened to also bring balance to the Force.
Mm-hmm. And Yoda even says they probably misinterpreted the prophecy about destroying.
Exactly. George Lucas put that in the freaking movies. Anyway, I get on the soapbox.
No. It's cool.
And the other thing I just want to touch on here is I did a TikTok on it. Is Legends fans were okay with Palpatine doing essence transfer, coming back, turning Luke, all that noise, and they're mad now that Palpatine came back. You weren't mad then. You've stated in videos, in comments of mine, that you're a Legends fan. That's part of the reason you don't like the sequels. So you're not mad he came back then, but you're going to turn around and say you're mad now. Like, that's just... Right. The cognitive dissonance is so strong with some of these people that it really hurts my brain sometimes.
Totally. I mean, that's why I'm so hard on them and try to help educate them to think. I don't care what they think, no matter what anybody tells you. You don't need to have any opinion that's the same as mine, but I want you to use this for more than a hat rack, right? Like this thing on your shoulders. And if you can't get it right with Star Wars or Marvel, how are you going to be, a good voter? How are you going to, provide for a family? How are you going to be a productive member of society? Like this is for me. I want to live in an earth that's not screwed up worse than it already is. So I'm trying to help people think. Like that's what I think we're all trying to do.
Exactly. 100%.
Opinion is if it differs from mine, great. Just show me that you formed the opinion.
All right.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's a tall order, though. Come on.
So, next one is this
YouTube.
So, with that said, would you have preferred the Rey Nobody, or do you feel that her adopting the name Skywalker was the right move?
Okay, so here's how I feel about this. When I first watched The Force Awakens, we had the big mystery of who's Rey's family. my original theory, and that I wanted to be true, was that she would be related to Palpatine before the other two movies came out. And I was like, this could be really awesome. I didn't think Palpatine would come back for that relation to matter. I just thought, oh, he did something through cloning, and that's how she became to be, and she has like his genetics. But I always loved the idea that she was related to no one, because anyone can be force sensitive, anyone can change anything, anyone can have a part to play in the story, and I loved that. And then when they made her a Palpatine, and then she adopted the name Skywalker, thematically I liked it. Execution-wise, it could have been better. But after, like, I'm trying to say, now that it's been so long since it's happened or whatever, I've come around to really love it. But I was always on board with Rey Nobody, even though I wanted Palpatine. But then they did it, and I was like, oh, this isn't exactly how I wanted it. But I do like it now. Okay. But I do prefer Nobody.
My initial thought was, oh, he's a Skywalker because of Maz Kanata, saying the path, what you're looking for, the belonging you seek is not behind you, but it could still be in front of you. And she immediately, Rey says, Luke. She never met the guy, but she had that force echo, right, from touching the Skywalker saber. And like suddenly she had heard of Luke, she heard the legends, and now she's starting to figure out that she fits into this world. And I thought, well, somehow she's going to end up being related to Luke. Guess what? Rey Skywalker at the end. And everybody, I know how names work. I know how biology works. I get all these lectures from 12-year-olds. You don't know how biology works. Yeah, I do, actually.
The name.
That's not what family is. Family is a social construct, period.
Yes.
It can be related literally to DNA, but it isn't always. And like Palpatine was no family to her. He misunderstands family when he says, the only family you have here is me. No, you're no family to her. That's why she rejected you. Mm-hmm. So I thought, actually, I didn't think in The Force Awakens that she was a Palpatine, Nick, but after The Last Jedi, I was thinking, she's got to be related to Palpatine. Like, I know that I wish I was on TikTok back then. I could have proof that I thought this, but my kids would testify to this. Like, and as soon as the trailer came out with his voice, I said, she's related to him. This is where her power comes from. And not that she had to be. Like, I think the darkness, to me, it was compelling that she had this great dark legacy that she had to fight against. Mm-hmm. If she was Rey Nobody, which I know a lot of people prefer that, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to whatever they prefer on that. But it's like she was fighting being nobody versus being a Skywalker. Well, at this point, she was trying to be like, which legacy am I going to pick up? The worst in the galaxy or the best in the galaxy? Like, there were very stark, different choices. And she felt like Luke did for a while that she was going to succumb to the darkness. And I thought that part of the story was compelling. But I called the Palpatine thing a little bit after Nick did.
I only called that or theorized that because it seems so heavily hinted at in The Force Awakens that she would be Luke's daughter, or possibly Leia's daughter, maybe Kylo's little
like
sister.
A misdirect.
Yeah, So I was like, oh, that's a misdirect. It's a red herring. She's not going to be a Skywalker. So what else could she be? A Kenobi, a Palpatine, somebody new? I was like, well, if she's a Palpatine, then it continues the Skywalker versus Palpatine story that's been through the other 6 movies. So she might be a Palpatine, and now the Palpatine's the good guy. And then that's what they did. I'm pretty sure I just saw a YouTube video from like right after the movie came out of me saying all that.
Yeah, I always up until they confirmed it in the movie, I was like, she's the other Skywalker, she's the other Solo. Like, it just like they're doing all these Legends tie-ins, and then you have the dyad between the two of them, and I'm like, it just makes sense. And then after Ben went nuts, they hid her on Jakku, and that was, and they sort of like they give you those little hints, like with the saber, her immediate affinity with Han. She's one of like 4 people in the entire universe that speak Shuriwook. Like, they gave you all these little hints that she's the other Solo, and then it's just, oh, she's nobody. And I'm like, is Snoke lying? I had that same reaction that I had when Vader told Luke he's his father. I'm pretty sure I asked my parents, I'm like, is he lying? He's got to be lying, right?
Most people thought he was. At least half of the audience thought he was lying.
Yeah.
And then the one thing, I have a couple friends who are nerds like me that we met through D&D, and I talk with them a bunch. I wish they were on TikTok too, but they're not. And the one who lives in Hong Kong now, he was like, I can't believe I didn't notice it's the first time I watched the film, but they tie it in the first film. Her first strike against Kylo Ren is a thrust. And that's exactly what Palpatine does.
Her facial expressions and everything are like completely copied from him, and just the way she pokes that thing.
So like people saying it wasn't planned from the beginning, and Daisy Ridley says it was changing on set all the time. Yeah, that's because Disney wasn't sure after The Last Jedi how to capitulate best to the fans, and I'm really sad that that's sort of the way they took the end of the story. But it was there. Like, there are a lot of little clues hidden behind the big ones if you really analyze the film.
It looked to me like they actually left about 3 different paths open from the beginning and then decided what would be the best story at the end. A lot of people that misquote J.J. Abrams about how saying, he said it would have been better if they had a plan. No, again, that's interpretation.
He didn't
not
say
what
that.
he said at all. In fact, in the commentary he does of The Force Awakens, he talks about how necessary a plan is, but how flexible you must be anyway. And that's the whole point. That's the way George Lucas was when he decided, I'll make Darth Vader Luke's father. That wasn't like the immediate thing. A lot of people don't understand that. I'll make Leia his sister. Like, that worked out better. The symmetry was better. The symmetry of Rey being a Palpatine and Kylo or Ben being a Skywalker, and then the way their stories were intertwined, like, that is unique for Star Wars. I thought that was amazing. And the poetry of it was just, the more I've thought about it, that's why, like, the sequels weren't my favorite until after The Rise of Skywalker, and then Rey Skywalker and the sequels, like, just shot up to me, like, right at about the same level as the originals and Luke Skywalker.
It makes you think. I mean, seriously, the sequels, they made me think. I was like, huh. And like I said, the only thing I messed up, I would have been on board with everything right away. Like Force Awakens, I was good. I was like, I watched that movie like 10 times, watched it in the theater 4 times, and then like I said, I watched all the damn clickbait and the leaks and spoilers and theories and all that stuff on YouTube, and it just messed my head up going to the Last Skywalker. So I was like, I was expecting things. I was like, this is it. And then I couldn't enjoy it. And not until they came out with the Mandalorian, then the Last Skywalker click. Not Last Skywalker, the Last Jedi click, because it was the defeat of Luke Skywalker, his downfall, how he his failure, and how he had to live with it, and people putting a hero on a pedestal.
Oh, they definitely did.
He's a person. Yes, he has a special ability. He's a Jedi, but how many times has the damn Jedi fail? As he said,
all the times.
So it's like, and it just made click. I was like, oh my god, that's one of the best movies there is. Like, and that's why people were so mad about it, because it made them look at the damn mirror. That's how I look at it. I'm like, because we all think like, oh, you see the hero, that the person you look up to, your mentor, your hero, is supposed to be like untouchable, and he's Luke Skywalker, the legendary Luke Skywalker, taking on the First Order with a laser sword. Once again, they say it all through the movie. It's like,
one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Who the hell do you think I am?
And that perfectly set up the last battle, because that's exactly what he did, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I'm like, okay, cool. But as the whole, like, her having Skywalker, it didn't bother me. I'm like, okay, if you looked at them as a father figure and or a mother figure, or that's your mentor, that's your guardians, that you have more connection with anybody, awesome, great, you found a family, you connected. We do it all the time in the United States. We do it everywhere. Right. Adoption.
What a lot of people, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. The only thing I didn't say. The thing about the Skywalker name, it's not just the name she took or was adopted into. It's a mantle. Like, at this point, Luke Skywalker is such a legendary hero. And I'm sure there are people who do remember Anakin from the Clone Wars as a legendary hero. What the galaxy needs now is another legendary hero. It's not just it's not just a name anymore. And I like Pep's interpretation. And I have my own thing where the new Jedi Order, he says that if they do it, they should all be called Skywalkers, which is really cool. And I think that that would be that extra step in abandoning attachment for the new Jedi Order is you are no longer Obi-Wan Kenobi, you are Obi-Wan Skywalker. You know, just for a point of reference. My other thing that they could do is instead of that is Skywalker is an honorary title, either for the Grandmaster or for someone who shows exemplary service to the Order going forward. You are given the title of, not Jedi Master, you are Skywalker of the Jedi Order.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, okay. Instead of having the Jedi, you have the Skywalkers.
Right.
Or
kind of what I thought from that movie on, like, oh, I guess that may be what they call all of them now. Like, that's what I walked out of the theater with my kids. And, but I still also liked that she finally had a family. Like, that was her curse the whole time. A lot of people, I think, don't take into consideration, too, if Carrie Fisher hadn't have died, the Rise of Skywalker would have been a very different movie. It was supposed to heavily feature her. They had to write around, things that they had already filmed. And that was a huge, like a pulled hamstring for them. Like it was, almost like a noose. Like it just really tied them down. And
it was a pulled hamstring for all of us.
Well, right.
For all of us.
And watching the Last Jedi when she got blown into space, like my heart stopped. I thought that was the end.
Yeah.
And then when her hand twinkled, like that's why I get frustrated when people like hate on that. Like, oh, stupid super late. That first of all, that's not how the Force works. But she pulled herself to the ship. It wasn't flying, but it just made my heart stop because I didn't want her to leave. And then when she was in the Rise of Skywalker, I thought this is awesome. But it would have been a different movie, right? Like I think they did a masterful job of tying it back to, like, in the book. People say you shouldn't have to read the book. Again, if the actress hadn't died, it would be different. They talk about how Leia saw her as a daughter. And it's not, her connection isn't so much with Luke. I mean, yes, he was her master for a short time. But her real connection was with Leia for a year of training. And then why wasn't she an Organa? Because she had no connection to the Organas. Skywalker was the name of hope, as we've all said here. Like there were actually like three things that I look at. It was Rey had a family finally, and she was giving hope to the galaxy because at the end of The Last Jedi, it was the legend. She told Luke, the galaxy needs a legend. And he came and became the legend, and then they were all talking about Luke Skywalker, and they had their little toys, and they were playing around, right? And so that's important to continue. But then the other part is her biological grandfather had tortured the Skywalkers for decades, for generations. The entire family was suffering under Palpatine. She decided she was going to destroy his legacy and embrace theirs. Like that, to me, that's one of the big three reasons why I see why the Skywalker thing is so important. Because why would she go around and give the galaxy hope by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm Rey Palpatine"? Like it wasn't ever her name, but like that's like saying, "Yeah, I'm Bill Hitler, and I'm going to help you be free as a country." I can't say that on TikTok; they'll ban me. But I guess this platform. But like, can you imagine in World War II, like people coming like the next year and saying, "Yep, I'm from the United States. I'm Bill Hitler." No.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't go over right. I'm like, you what?
That's why you don't meet Bill Hitler. There isn't such a thing.
The other thing I was going to just add a little piece. The other thing about Carrie Fisher's death is I'm pretty sure I saw this. They asked if they could do the CGI thing with her, and the family said no.
Yeah.
Like they were like, you can do the stuff you already shot. They gave them permission to do that small, tiny little piece in Rogue One, but they said no. You cannot create her for the rest of this role because and then who do you have do the voice too? Because you have to record all that dialogue to go with the face. They said no, and people don't want to believe that either. It's just like people hate on the Rise of Skywalker for so many reasons, and it does have its issues, but they refuse to believe the facts of the matter. Like, this was supposed to be Leia's movie. Carrie Fisher passed tragically before her time, and her family said, you are not bringing back her ghost to finish this movie. It doesn't matter what you pay us, you're not doing it.
Yeah, imagine if they had recast her.
That wouldn't have worked either. And
I ain't gonna lie.
It's not like in The Matrix where you could get by with that because they were able to write that into the story somehow. And because that actress that had played the Oracle, sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen the Matrix trilogy, but what are you doing with your life? Anyway, that actress wasn't like as well known as Carrie Fisher. It was an iconic role because she had been in like just the 2 movies.
And it wasn't Star Wars.
And it wasn't freaking Star Wars.
And it's also, they get around that in the first movie of The Matrix by saying this is, what does he call it? Perpetual self-image. This is how you see yourself. So you can visualize yourself as anybody in The Matrix. So it's just like, oh, it's The Matrix. It's not real anyway.
Yep, it's the mental projection of your digital self.
Until y'all told me this, I didn't know no difference. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's my story. So I was like, all right, shit. So
I'm going to start doing a bunch of videos on The Matrix just to warn everybody that's listening. So
I'm here for it.
I like what Amber said. This is just very deep. And I didn't understand. I didn't get this until now. I love Leia giving Poe the legacy of her chosen family, Organa. Ben, of her true love, Solo. And Rey, the legacy of Hope Skywalker. I was like,
can't be better said.
Amber.
And that's the thing that I wish had made it into the movie, but they just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it wasn't recorded, so
I guess they could have had Carrie Fisher's back to the camera like they did with the whole lay down and like reach out with the Force thing, and then maybe it was on a pad. I don't know, but like then we would have had to read in the movie, and people are like, I don't want to read. Reading's hard.
Yeah. And how do you do English on a data pad when the whole story's in Arabish? Like all the writing in universe.
Somebody could have read it. Like, oh, here's Leia's letter.
Yeah, and that is, talk about mad fans. Like there was no winning in that situation.
Oh, there's no winning with these people anyway.
No, yeah, it's difficult. It's like I had to tell somebody who made a perfect example. You guys probably follow him. He does a great thing, like a little like the Church of Star Wars.
The Martin show.
He got attacked so damn bad. And he did the Dark Knight version, Joker one. He got attacked. And he's like, I told him, dude, you can't argue with a brick wall. Just stop. Don't do it because it's going to hurt you. He's like, no, you're right.
Here's something a lot of folks don't know about me that I'm just going to throw out there. I used to be a preacher, Christian preacher. Oh. So for like several years, I got up in a pulpit every Sunday and gave a lesson. And people would get mad at me for the stuff I would say. And I said, you know what? I literally have said this to people. Jesus Christ could be preaching from the pulpit and you would stone him. Like, that's just the way. And literally, that's what happened to him, right? All of their religion. And so people are just like that. Like, the stuff they claim to love, they will hate and kill it. I'm glad Star Wars isn't dead.
Yeah, true. I relate it to playing chess with a pigeon. You can't play chess with a pigeon because at some point the pigeon's going to get on the board, knock over all the pieces, shit on it, and pretend like it won anyway. That's all I'm imagining now. Like, and arguing with some of these people is
target all over the board and your head.
It's arguing with some of these people is like playing chess with a pigeon, and so sometimes I get in arguments. And I will literally just end the conversation by saying, you know what, you're right. I don't play chess with pigeons, and I walk away.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to remind myself I'm not their dad. I'm not their coach. I'm not their teacher. As much as I want to help people, and I will say my piece, but then I have to cut it off. Like, you have to have – I don't know anybody there anything. Neither do any of you. But I'll give what I can, and I'll walk back to my actual family, my real people I see every day, and I'll give them most of what I've got, right? Like, not on TikTok. You can't get bent out of shape with trolls on the internet who are unevolved and be their dad. Like, I can't adopt all of them. Some of them I would love to adopt. There's some awesome people in the fandom, but
you can mine them for content, though.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yes,
great fodder.
you can.
Great, as I like to call it, TikTok poodoo.
Nice. So I have a question, and I can't remember if they actually addressed this in the movie, but how did Luke and Leia know Rey was a Palpatine?
They don't address that in canon. We don't have a canonical answer for how they explicitly know. And I've read a bunch of theories. The one I like the most is that when Luke became one with the Force, he knew,
Mm-hmm.
and then he
That-
communicated it to Leia.
That actually is a thing. I believe Pep was the first one I saw say it, that as soon as you become one with the Force, you're granted all sight and you just know everything.
I think Yoda
Yeah.
said something about the Qui-Gon's ghost. Yeah.
It's like with Neo seeing the world without time. You know, they're in the cosmic force. There isn't, past and future. It's just there. It's kind of like the world between worlds. It's kind of like, I guess, our sort of, conception of what that abstract thing is like, but it's just all there. So he could know. And, that's when Leia took over Rey's training. So she would have known the entire time if that's how Luke found out. And she visited Luke. So,
Yeah, but as far as I know, there's not a concrete answer yet. We don't know for sure
Correct.
how they know.
Correct. We can't
makes
totally
sense.
assume that. It's just a theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Star Wars theory. Anyway.
And I'm sure, at least for Luke, he was in the presence of the Emperor. He understands what that's like. So I'm sure he could feel it coming off of Rey as she began really opening herself up to the Force, even on Octo. Because Luke is one of the most Force-sensitive people in the universe. He's nowhere near Vader, and he just goes, Vader's on that ship. Well, how do you know? I can sense his presence.
Mhm.
Like, they give you this in universe, in the OT. Like, and that's, I think George Lucas's idea was that although Anakin was the chosen one to restore balance, Luke and Leia were his legacy. Luke was they were supposed to be even more powerful than he was.
Yeah, I see. Dobe has pointed out in the chat. Maybe you guys can highlight that. I hope we get a series where Finn becomes a Jedi. That's my biggest gripe with the Rise of Skywalker is, Rey, I got to tell you something. Throughout the entire film, never told her. Why was that thread left hanging? Like, we know what it is now. He's Force sensitive. But why not a scene like with Broom Boy? Let's have Finn start to pick up the lightsaber. We had to wait till the freaking Lego holiday special to get Finn starting to train and hold a lightsaber. Like that could have been better, Disney. Come on, Lucasfilm.
And
Yeah.
they leave hints to it too. Like during the Hosnian Cataclysm, he stops and he's like, and there's other little hints. And one of my biggest gripes with actually The Last Jedi is there's really no reason. Like, his injuries weren't that bad. There's really no reason he couldn't have been in a back tank for a few hours and have gone to Octo as well. Then Canto Bite wouldn't have happened, but everybody hates that anyway. I mean, I don't mind it, but like, there's no reason like he couldn't have been there, and Luke would have been like, "Who's the guy on the ship?" You know what I mean? Like, who else did you bring? Because let's go see that guy too. Because
Yeah, it seems to me that Maz Kanata knew that Finn was Force sensitive because she's the one that hands him the lightsaber, and he's like, "I need a weapon." She's like, "You have one."
Yeah.
By the way, and we know she's Force sensitive. Like, she's not a Jedi, but she knows the Force. She gave Rey her first. She was Obi-Wan to Rey at the beginning, like Obi-Wan was to Luke, and said, "Okay, the Force is what it binds us, surrounds us, penetrates us, holds the galaxy together." That's exactly the function of Maz Kanata to Rey.
Yeah.
Oh no, she's not a Jedi. It doesn't matter. To say the Jedi have the Force, without the Jedi, there's no Force, is hubris, right? Isn't that what Luke taught us? Like, that's just arrogant. So I love the commentary. I love the self-referential stuff in The Last Jedi.
If I could make anything in Star Wars happen, it would be a Finn and Rey movie or series about them rebuilding the Order with Finn
Absolutely
becoming master. I would love that so much.
it really feels like that's where they were headed until the trolls took over.
They could do that animated though. I mean, even if those actors wouldn't come back, like, I think Darth Chaco had the best pitch that I've heard so far, and I think he was thinking live action, but I'm thinking it could be animated, where it's like you have Rey and Finn building the Order. That's half the show, but the other half is they pull up Luke's journals, and then you flash back and you see Luke actually doing the things that he did that we haven't seen on screen. Some of the comics deal with it, some of the books deal with it, but it would be other stories. And I just think that would be amazing to have those two periods be connected through Luke's journals that way. Man, sign me up.
I don't care if they do it. I just want that.
That'd be dope. I mean, it's like the old remember, Kevin, you probably remember this. The old Young Indiana Jones series.
Oh yeah.
That exactly like that.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I used to have hair just like that.
But
I was in a museum. I think he said that in the series too.
Yeah. One of the big things I want out of Luke's adventures, I want to know where he got his crystal. Like, is it Qui-Gon Jinn's crystal? Did he go to a temple and find it? I really want to see that. And then the other thing I wanted to say when you were talking about Luke and the laser sword is he did exactly that, but he did it in the most Jedi way possible. He projected himself across space, confronted his nephew, and didn't hurt a single person. He used the Force for knowledge and defense and not for attack. It's absolutely the one lesson. It's the one lesson Yoda gave him that he actually freaking learned. Finally, like I heard someone say that they didn't like Luke rehashing the lessons that he already learned, and I'm like, did you watch Return of the Jedi? Because everything Yoda told him, he did the exact opposite.
He threw it out the window, yeah.
So we finally see Luke in The Last Jedi learn those lessons, and people are mad about it.
People forget also that Luke didn't create Darth Vader. He had no guilt in association with Darth Vader. Existed before Luke was born, and it was Obi-Wan and partly Yoda that felt that guilt. And what did they do? They went into seclusion. Well, Luke did the same thing when he created the new Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, Darth Vader 2.0, and he did have guilt in creating that one, even though, again, it wasn't all his fault. Ben made his own decisions, but Ben was being corrupted, just like Anakin had been corrupted all those years since he was 9 years old by Palpatine, right? You know, we'll watch your career with whatever. That whole thing, like that was Luke's failing. He didn't have to relearn a lesson because that wasn't a lesson of him in the original trilogy. He didn't even try to kill his nephew, who was 23, the same age Luke was in Return of the Jedi, by the way. I like to point that out to people. He's a kid. Wasn't a kid.
The way that's filmed, he does look real young. I will say that.
I mean, but it's the same actor, though. Like,
it's just the way it's shot. Like seeing that, I thought he was like in his teens. It's just the way it's shot.
Boy, but to me, I mean, that's totally fair. That's just not the way I took it. But now we know in canon that he was 23 years old and had been turned for a long time.
Yeah. It's like that thing you talked about with the twins. You just did a TikTok on it. I'm not blanking. In the MCU, Wanda and Pietro.
Oh, Wanda and Pietro.
Because Cap calls him
in Civil War. And
called him kid, but that's because Cap's 100.
Yeah,
Cap's 98 when he calls her a kid and she's 26. I mean, if you're 26, you're a kid to me. I'm 44, so that's just the way that works.
That's how I feel.
That's how it comes out. So, but
and I don't mean disrespect by that. It's just that, like my grandfather used to say to me, "I've been your age. You've never been mine." There's some wisdom there.
Good point.
Yeah.
That comment you just had up here from Ready Comics Roll about developing a story with Rey and Finn, like they said they're writing that. That's interesting you say that. Kind of funny, because I've been writing a book that has a thread, that has that story thread in there, that Rey and Finn rebuild the Jedi Order and become masters. Like, the book I'm writing is not about them. That's just something that has happened in the past. Like, what I'm writing is based like 200 years after the sequels, but I have that in my book, that story thread, that they rebuilt the Order and became Jedi Masters. I also have in there that they, for a period of time, Rey didn't call anyone Jedi. She called them all Skywalkers.
Okay.
I've seen multiple people say that now, and when I first thought of that, like a year and a half or so ago, I never saw anyone say that. And I've seen so many people mention that. I'm like, man, this was not an original idea from me.
Well, it is. I mean, it's one of those things I saw recently. Multiple people can come up with the same idea. I think it was Straw Hat Goofy that was talking about that.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't mean that one person, everybody stole it from one person. Like that, Pep had the same idea. I had that idea too, although not like you two. I'm not writing about it. So I think you guys have definitely taken it further than me.
And one of the things too is Star Wars isn't original. Like it really isn't. Like people keep saying like, oh well, like George Lucas came up with this. He didn't. It's based on so many of the different things he liked. Like the Force itself is partially based on. It's based on a bunch of different mysticisms. But one of the big ones is Chi and the Shaolin school. Like that's he talks about seeing monks do the stuff with the stones where they roll their hands through tons of stones without breaking their bones and different things like that. And that's a big part of where his ideas came from. He just took bits and pieces and packaged them in a way that we could all love.
For the religion stuff and with the Force, yeah, he worked with Joseph Campbell to boil every single major world religion and some not so major down into like this essence that's kind of shared with all of them. That's why so many people could relate to it and say, yeah, that's kind of like Christianity, or that's kind of like Judaism, or that's kind of like Buddhism, or like you're talking about with the Chi and other different kind of, there's a lot of animism in there. There's a lot of these different things. Of course, some will point to that and say, that's why it's against my religion. Well, I mean, it's not meant to be a religion. I know there is one, kind of like the Church of Elvis in Portland, but it's, that doesn't mean it's a legit religion. Sorry, I'm not judging. But yeah, it was meant to boil it down, like to the lowest common denominator. That's the thing that George Lucas mastered to me, was he was a good storyteller in that he could do things that were relatable to enough people and understandable that weren't so complicated. But then, there's mud here and there that kind of
one of the great things he did was he took all this stuff that like a kid can watch and understand the story, and then he hid all these themes underneath it. Like there's stuff hidden there. Like I always return to Return of the Jedi. It's just like at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke stops because he realizes he'll be just like his dad. And he starts thinking about what does it mean to be a Jedi? What is it? And through Vader, you get the conversation of what does it mean to be human? Because you get that line from Obi-Wan that he's nothing but parts now, more machine now than man, twisted and evil.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, maybe he's got all those parts, but there's still a man underneath there, and that's a big theme of cyberpunk. And, are you still a person even after all this different stuff?
Do you certify that you were born an organic life form and not fully machine?
And for
a lot of people not know they're robots.
For anyone who hasn't, I will never not recommend reading Neuromancer by William Gibson. If you like sci-fi and you want to understand more about what's going on in Star Wars, read that book, because it's vastly different, but there's so many of the same themes going on.
No, what was it called?
It's called Neuromancer by William Gibson. My copy's still upstairs. I just finished it like the other night.
All right.
It's a book. It's one of the few books I've read more than once. I read it every 10 years or so. I got it in high school from my brother on my 17th birthday. I last read it when I was about 27 before I got married, and I'm 37 now. I just read it. So yeah, it's the reason I love the OT is because it's so cyberpunk. So like I always recommend William Gibson. I don't know, Nick, if you've read Neuromancer.
It's been so long, but I have read Neuromancer. It's a fantastic book.
Oh, I love it. It's like I was saying. It's a book. It's one of the few books I read more than once, and I do reread it like every 10 years.
Nice.
Read it again soon, actually, because my next book after the Star Wars thing is a cyberpunk novel.
Yeah, let me know because I will read it.
I would love to talk to you guys offline about the Matrix then, because
Yeah,
there's so much of that in there.
Oh yeah, so much. They're so heavily inspired by that.
I'm going to put something in the private chat here.
I'll throw this out. The Matrix trilogy is actually my favorite movie franchise. I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. But the Matrix is my go-to guilty pleasure because of it's very cerebral. I know not everybody loves it, but I love the layers in there.
I like the Matrix. Yes, it's
apart for years. There's so anyway. That's another podcast.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay, so we kind of touched on it a little bit already, but so what would you like to see from the Jedi Master Rey Skywalker?
Train Finn, for the love of the Force. Train Finn.
Yes.
That's got to be the first thing.
Okay. Train Finn.
And for the same reasons, I was picking on the Lego Holiday Special, but I think they hit the right notes there. Like, she can't think that she's doing it herself. She's got to train other people. A leader's only good if they're making other leaders. That's true in every walk of life, every arena. Like, you're not good as a leader unless you're bringing up new ones.
And the best place to start with that would be Finn.
Right. He's the only choice.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ready Comics Roll, you got to follow me. We got to be mutuals because I feel the same way about Return of the Jedi, by the way.
All right. So okay.
You underestimate my movie prowess. Anyway.
And I agree with all you guys. You know, Train Finn, building the Jedi, the Skywalker Order, or called the Jedi Order, because Skywalker Order. I agree with that one, just for the fact that the Jedi is tainted. The word is tainted. I don't know how you look at it. It's tainted. There's too much propaganda still out there around it, so it's still tainted. So just like the Empire is tainted and the First Order is tainted, because for obvious reasons they're tainted. But so yeah, to call it build a Skywalker Order. I would want her to do something like that.
I want to see her do that and have it be less religion based.
Yes.
Not like a stout, devout follower of like the Jedi religion, and she really couldn't because she doesn't know anyone that is. Luke never really was either. Leia definitely wasn't. So it wouldn't have that in it. I would like to see her and Finn, like, it's rebuilding, but they're really creating a new one for a new future, for a new future of kids to come into and new Force sensitives to come into. That's what I want to see.
I do want to see her slap Finn's hand with a plant. Like, that's the Force. People get mad about that. I love that so much. That whole scene.
That was hilarious.
Luke rolls his eyes. He's like, they don't like me very much talking about the caretakers. And he's like, can't imagine why. So good.
Hey, when that whole movie, I was like, is this more of Luke Skywalker or is this more of Mark Hamill? I was like,
right?
Well, the whole thing with Luke is that people still don't get is he's Yoda in that movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Yoda does the same thing. Like, Luke shows up and Yoda's like, let me test this kid. And he trolls him and he purposely tries to piss him off and all of that stuff.
That's what's up. Okay. So, any other thoughts about that? What you want to see from Jedi Master Rey Skywalker?
I put something in. I sent something to you. I don't know if you could put it in the chat, but there's this picture I saw.
Where'd you send it?
I sent it to your phone.
Oh.
There's this picture I saw, and it's a picture of old Grogu. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the summary is the Padawan's trying to deal with loss, and he says, but it is once you you mean when they die, death is a natural part of life, but I wish it weren't. But it is. Once you accept that, the dark side will never take you. I have to live knowing that life and death are inseparable. It seems impossible. Grogu touches the Padawan's hand. No, Padawan, it is not impossible. It is the way. I would love to see that side of the Force, because Luke Skywalker is so attached. I would love to see them evolve from the no attachments sort of thing to the have the attachments but learn this lesson. And they sort of do. Anakin was like the worst Jedi, obviously. He could never accept that lesson, but I would like to see them fully embrace that even attachments are part of being a living, breathing, feeling human.
Yeah, I would love to see them detoxify that, and I feel like Rey and Finn would do that because they have they're not held on to can't be attached to anything, because they're clearly attached to each other. So how would they even do it without attachment? That would be impossible for them.
Yeah.
Well, and they learned that from Leia. I mean, Leia walked away from the Order because she had other priorities, which makes total sense. She didn't want to split her focus. She didn't want to be, untrue to either path or whatever. But she also had attachments, and Luke had attachments, and I mean, Luke was the best of them in my view. I still think he's the best, example. He's what Anakin could have been was Luke,
right.
And he still had problems, which is so relatable to me because, the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, I've had some Luke on the island moments in my life, and by moments I mean like periods of time. But
is that your epic worldview, Kev?
Yeah, it is. That's the less epic part of it, but yeah, that's yeah. I eat my feelings anyway. So I think I would love to see Ahsoka still, and there's still like a chance that she's alive. I know we heard her in The Rise of Skywalker. Dave Filoni has maintained that it's kind of a Gandalf the White kind of situation, maybe with his little teases.
I love that.
Know that people can talk through the Force without being dead. I think that's one of the reasons they didn't show any Force ghosts, because those aren't all Force ghosts.
Well, yeah, because Mace is there, and he didn't do the training. And
right.
I think she somehow, being on a nexus like Exegol, even though it was a dark side nexus, accessed the world between worlds, because we saw that Palpatine did it through his Sith alchemy. He was able to access the world between worlds while Ezra was there on Lothal, physically there.
Tried until Ezra sealed the gate. I think then that was kind of
he was still able to get there. He was sending that alchemy fire through the gate, if I recall correctly. So,
shameless plug. I did a video with every single voice in the world between worlds.
Yeah, that was awesome, by the way.
Dope, dude.
There were like 5 that I didn't even know existed until I cranked up the headphones, and then I was like, "Oh, that's father. Oh, that's daughter. Oh, that's there were just I didn't. Oh, you mean Chirrut is in there? Like, yeah, I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. That's even in there because someone made a point about the World Between Worlds is going to retcon it's a different timeline with the sequels. No, it's not. In fact, you can hear Rey and Kylo Ren and Maz Kanata all through the World Between Worlds.
Doesn't even make any sense that it was retcon.
Yeah. They dream up every single way. Oh, Kathleen Kennedy's been fired 17 times. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
That's another podcast.
I saw a rumor. It was posted by Mike Zero. I haven't researched it, but apparently they're bringing Daisy Ridley back. Like they rehired her.
I don't know.
You can't trust anything that he says.
No, I don't either. I was looking at something else on YouTube and it came up, and I'm like, I clicked on it, and then I was like, oh, it's Mike Zero.
Now he's going to come up in your feed a lot more. Good job.
She has changed her tune recently about what she says about Star Wars. Before, she kind of wouldn't answer, and if she did, it would not be happy answers. But now she's saying things like, "Well, you never know what could happen" and stuff like that. And John Boyega was saying things like that recently as well.
There's some distance now. I think that helps.
Yeah, she absolutely. Like I said earlier, they're all fans of Star Wars. They all love it. So
fandom that were mean to them.
Yeah, and like I don't either. And it's just one of those things where it's I can't put myself in that position because I've never gotten that amount of negativity in my life. But I can't imagine that going back to pet the dog that bit you 2 days ago is an easy thing to do. It's like I have the utmost respect for people who do that and rehabilitate animals, and it's got to be a similar feeling where you know, you touched the hot stove and it burnt you, but it's also the thing where your food comes from.
Yeah,
You
that'd
know
be
what I
like me
mean?
going to my hometown ever because, yeah, you talk about the hate and stuff, like what they get for being actors in Star Wars. I got it on a smaller scale because it's a small town, but I had a rough childhood, so I kind of get that. And then some of those people, like now they're my Facebook friends or whatever. And then I've actually had the opportunity to become friends with some of them. But it was like you're saying, like, I don't know if I want to accept that friend request.
Yeah.
Didn't you beat me up once behind the school? Yeah, no.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. No.
Taking over here.
So, all right, cool. So with that said, closing thoughts.
I love Star Wars.
I thought it was a closing thought. That was a good one.
Yeah. Yes.
I like turtles. Oh wait, this is wrong. Rey Skywalker. I'm a Rey Skywalker stan, and I'm not ashamed of it. I think she's awesome. I relate to her character so much, and I'm a man, so I can imagine that women can relate to her in ways that I can't. But she's clever. She does things. Somebody asked me one time. I said I relate to Rey because this and that. And they're like, oh, were you just a straight A student? I'm like, yeah. So, like, we exist. You know, people that can figure things out quickly, and she has the Force, and I don't have that. So, no, I think she's awesome. I wanted to adopt her so bad because I have kids her age in the movies. Like, it broke my heart to watch her.
Yeah.
I'm so glad she has a family, and not just the Skywalkers. Finn, Poe, they're all her family. Chewie.
Oh, Chewie. Oh, poor Chewie.
Yeah.
Like, who suffered more loss in the Star Wars universe than Chewbacca?
Not
Chewie and R2.
Obi-Wan. Well, about the same.
Yeah. But for closing thoughts, like, I don't know how you can hate the Rey Skywalker thing. Like, it just, aside from, you know, the found family aspect that's always been there in Star Wars, it's like I said, it's a mantle. It's the symbol of hope. It's, you know, possibly the new Jedi Order. It's all of those things. And beyond that, George Lucas himself has said a million bazillion times that the Star Wars saga is about the Skywalkers. She was always going to be a Skywalker at the end. It's how do we get her there?
Those seeds were definitely planted in The Force Awakens.
Yep.
You know, Luke, she went right to Luke when Maz Kanata said, somebody still could be there for you. And she never met the dude. So, yeah, definitely there was a connection from the beginning.
I love the character of Rey. She's easily my favorite canon character, and she rivals Bane and Zahn as my favorite period. I mean, I love stories of self-discovery and deciding who you are and who you're supposed to be, no matter what anyone else is telling you or what they're dictating you should be, which is what happens to Rey throughout the whole trilogy. And I love those themes like that. It's like I'm a huge fan of that character. I love her.
Yeah.
Nice.
One of the other complaints, I'll just throw this out there, that people have had is, well, she chooses good too often. Like, okay, that's a problem with the hero. Like, and it's the same complaint I heard about Captain America almost a decade ago, like in the MCU. Oh, well, Steve's not believable because he's too good. He's always good. You know, there are people like that. Again, I mean, I want to be more like that all the time. That's why I love that character. That's why I love Superman. I don't care that Superman's too OP and all that. Superman is good, and I want to be good, and I want to protect people and do things like he does. I see Rey the same way, and Captain America.
Well, hold on. So somebody has told you that Captain America is too
good.
Too good.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
Is it the comic book or the MCU version?
He can be an asshole sometimes, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of Captain America in the MCU is he's the ideals of America. Like, he's what the country says it is.
Yeah.
All the best parts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not the worst. Yep.
Captain America's done a lot of really bad shit in the movies and the comics. For someone saying that, they're not very well versed in Captain America.
Well, again, this was like after the first movie or two, right? Like, oh, it's not realistic. These were old complaints that I heard, but you're right. It's.
I mean, they just sound like blanket complaints to want to complain to me. Like, yeah, Cap's a good person, but good people are supposed to do good things.
Yeah. I mean, they're heroes. Yes, they're complicated, but Ray was complicated. She went to the dark like every movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like there were times where she
Controversial.
just more than Luke, like faster. He's like, you went straight to the dark. That's why he was scared because he saw Ben do it and he did it, but she did it even faster.
Because she was a Palpatine.
Man.
That's all I have to say about that.
All right. So my closing thoughts about the everything about Rey Skywalker. She is a necessity in Star Wars, plain and simple. Not because she defeated Palpatine, not just overall. She is what was needed and is needed to continue Star Wars. It was something that was lacking in Star Wars. We had female roles, but they always played second. As a father, grandfather, and you guys saw my daughter. I want my daughter to be able to look up to something and on the screen like I was able to see whether it was Luke Skywalker, whether it was Yoda, whether it was Chewbacca, R2, whoever you looked up to, but it was needed. Everybody had Princess had Leia, and Leia and Padme was very powerful, but they didn't have that mystic Jedi role until the sequels, because Leia denounced the whole Jedi thing until later on. She said, "I don't want to do that." And then after Darth Vader is dead, okay, I'll look into it now. So I just think that she is needed, and it's honestly to heal a wound, you have to extract the toxins and the infection, and she is that ointment that is that's extracting the antibodies that's extracting that toxicity in the Star Wars community.
The one thing I said in my Rey rant is that not only do girls need strong female characters, strong female main characters, leads, little boys need it too. Because when they grow up and they enter society and they have a female boss, they shouldn't immediately question why she's there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that happens all the time. All the time. You see a woman in a position of authority, and not me, but immediately people are like, oh, well, what did she do to get there?
True.
And one of the things that I constantly try to do as a dad is to make my boys better than me, because I don't always think I'm the best person. I want my boys to be better than I am. I want them to have and do and be the things I'm not. And I think we all want that for our kids, but that's why Rey is so important. Kids, not just for little girls, but for little boys, to see a strong woman and not immediately question why she's there. That's just
or her competence, like
yes,
any of that stuff. I've got a message for all the young men listening along those exact lines. I've been in the workforce for decades now. I'm not a young dude. I have worked for myself. I've run companies. I've had 5 really good bosses. None of them were me. And 4 of them were women. And I never once questioned. Of course, my mother was a business owner and leader, and I got to see her toil away to provide for us all those years growing up when we had nothing, right? So to me, women were always strong, and it's not like we were raised in some kind of it was a typical American household in the sense that it wasn't like an extreme of any kind of political views or whatever. My mom busted her ass, and that's what I saw. I get along a lot better with women bosses than I do men. I hate bro culture at work. And so I've made it my mission, and this is for all men of all ages right now, to make a safe place at work for women at all levels of your company or whatever organization you're in. Like when you see guys acting like assholes, call them out on it. However you think is best, but just, don't let that happen. Like we've got to build up another generation. And exactly what you're talking about with your sons, I have 3 daughters and 2 sons, and from the beginning, I've taught my sons how to respect everybody, but particularly stand up for their sisters and let their sisters grow into great, strong young women. But don't ever treat women the way you see, guys on TV treat them. You see guys in your school treat them. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can go on a whole sermon about this, but it's so important to me that we stand up for people, whether or not they can stand up for themselves. Be an ally. I don't mean like come in as a savior complex kind of thing. I mean, be an ally to people of every, ethnic background, every religion, gender, whatever it is. Just let's protect people and create safe places. I like how Amber put it in here too. Safe and interesting spaces. Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that for sure.
I agree. So with that said, thank you for all that. Thank you for the value that you just brought to this podcast. Thank you for the, I don't want to say compelling, but just everything that you brought around Rey and making this a safe place, as well as validating everything that was done with Rey that was needed to be done with Rey. So, and it's awesome to do things like this because, especially around controversial topics that can be toxic to the community, that a lot of people had. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but some fans had issues with. Some fans didn't. But the fact that we all can come together and like the same thing should say more, and it shouldn't cause a division. It should cause a unity, no matter what. So, with that said, we're gonna go around the horn, and we're gonna close this out. But we're gonna go around the horn real fast and just let everyone know where they can find you, and go from there. So, Kevin, we'll start with you.
Okay, J. Kevin Parker, all one word, on almost all the socials. And then on YouTube, you can find my link from my TikTok. So that's where I'm at. Mostly is on TikTok. That's probably where you've all seen my big head and loud voice. So I'm going to be there until they block me again or whatever.
And then I'll be back again.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll start all over again the fourth time. But
this isn't even his final form, guys.
Yes, exactly. I've got evolution to come. So yeah, that's me. I'm in this for fun and to make a better world, and just like all of you. I appreciate people like you, and the people in the chat are why I'm still in a fandom at all. Awesome. It wouldn't be worth it if there weren't good people to hang out with and to try to create a positive world. So thank you for what you're doing and inviting me on.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, really.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you. 1 second. I'll close this out fast. Next. Will. Nick. Sorry. I don't know how you will.
You can find me on TikTok and Twitter as There Will Be Nick. On TikTok, on my profile, I have links to everything else. So you can just find it all there. But I just want to echo what Kevin said. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a really great experience. And yeah, I love things like this. I love seeing the community grow and have more interesting conversations with people that are like-minded but can still differ on things, and then actually talk about it instead of it breaking down to something else. I think it's really important to be able to communicate. So yeah, I really love doing this, and yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you for coming on. This has been amazing. So I do appreciate both of you guys coming on. We'd love to have you on again for a future show. I'm pretty sure we'll be reaching out to you again once we get some stuff lined up. And xcoregamerskillz?
I am xcoregamerskillz literally everywhere. My only real presence, though, is on the TikTok. If you're not following me already, there might be one of two of you that came from one of our guests. Go ahead. Like I said, it's that name you see is there everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere but Instagram, because I don't know how that works.
Okay. Thank you. Awesome. God, Kevin, that's
I have opinions, man. I call out BS when I see it.
That hurt me right there.
People being bullies and profiting off of lies. So
no, yeah, he's straight clickbait.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. And I agree with you on that one.
And the hate for Brie Larson is unacceptable. But anyway.
All right, and me, Jedi Master Depaul. You can find me on TikTok for Star Wars content, and also here at the Conspiracy Cantina every other week. So every other Tuesday we'll be doing this. So not the next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. But yes, you can find me on TikTok at Jedi Master Depaul, and doing silly Star Wars stuff and trolling the haters and the toxicity as well. Because I ain't no bozo.
Yeah, sure.
So,
for sure.
With that, guys, thank you again. Really do appreciate you guys coming on. This has been an amazing topic and amazing discussion. I love it. Love all the energy and the positivity you guys bring, and just all the ideas and discussion that we have. So, with that said, let's knock this out with may the force be with you, and
Yub Nub for life.
Nub nub.
All right, guys. Take care, and until the next one, guys.
Ichiwawa. Kabuki Yuki? Wait. I mean,